I walked through death on my way to Cam's house. Above me, skeletal trees lined the road, reaching their crooked branches toward the dark, wet sky. Their green leaves had already turned red, then yellow, before falling about the street in piles. It was almost winter. Whatever the wind hadn't blown away rotted on the sidewalk, squishing under my sneakers. I pulled my jacket over my head. We had some nasty weather recently, but this was by far the worst. The kind of night that caused accidents, flooded rivers, and threw trees onto telephone wires. There was no doubt in my mind. Bad things happened on nights like these. Thankfully, Cam only lived 7 houses down from me. I knocked on his front door. A few seconds later, I heard his muffled voice on the other side. "Who is it?" It's me? Matt? Open the door. It's freezing out here." The lock clicked and the door swung wide, revealing Cam's apologetic face. "Sorry," he said. "I guess our neighbor saw someone prowling around the neighborhood. My mom's freaked. She's making me ask, 'Who is it?' every time someone comes to the front door. It's so annoying." "How do you guys have a mail slot but not a spy hole?" I asked. I don't know, it's stupid. Come on. I'm almost finished setting up. Inside, a Monopoly board lay open on the dining room table, stacks of multicolored banknotes stuffed under the edges. I could smell melted cheese coming from the steaming pizza box on the counter. Rain pitter-pattered on the kitchen skylight. Cam's mom hurried around the house, late for her work function. Between fixing earrings and stumbling into her shoes, she thanked me for coming over and told us not to do anything stupid. "And make sure the doors and windows are both locked, you two," she said. "You know that our neighbor saw a strange person in her front yard last week." "Yeah, well, Mrs. Dolores believes in mermaids, Mom," Cam shouted toward the back door. He waited for the mechanic hum of the garage door shutting. "I think my mom's been watching way too much Criminal Minds," he said. "She even tried calling my sister's friend to come babysit us." "Katie?" I asked, hopefully. "Really?" Cam rolled his eyes. 1, she's way older than you, and 2, she didn't even answer. We sat down at the table. "I mean, we're 13, not like we need protecting, right?" I shrugged. "I'm okay with it, especially if it's Katie." Cam just shook his head. "Gross, dude." "Dolores is actually crazy, though," he added. "I bring in her garbage every week. Once, she told me that her grandma is a blood-sucking alien." He chuckled and dumped a bunch of silver tokens on the table. "Let me guess. You're gonna be the thimble." "You got me," I said while grabbing the piece and placing it on the board. As Cam sifted through the pile of tokens, I looked around the walls and around the kitchen. Several huge Alaskan crabs were pinned up on plaques, arms outstretched like giant armored spiders. I always thought it was kind of bizarre, but Cam's dad was a career fisherman and liked his trophies. My attention returned to the table as Cam slammed down the silver Scotty dog token on the board. He then crossed his eyes. "Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore," he said in a mock Dorothy voice. It was about an hour after we began playing, and the game was heating up. Cam had just landed in jail when someone knocked on the front door. It wasn't a normal knock, more like a heavy pounding, slow and calculated. From where I was sitting, I could see the door. The knock came again. Boom, boom, boom. Me and Cam exchanged glances with wide eyes. We thought it was the cops. But after a few seconds, and still no one called police, we got up hesitantly and tiptoed toward the door. Cam put his ear against the wood and listened. He must not have heard much of anything, because a moment later, he asked, "Who is it?" "It's me," came an eerie voice from the other side. If our eyes were wide before, now they were dinner plates. Me and Cam just looked at each other, unsure of what to do. "Who?" Cam asked again, shakily. "It's me, your mother. Open the door." The voice was strange and halting, like The body it belonged to hadn't breathed enough air to speak, but still tore the words from its lungs. I couldn't even tell if it was truly a woman. For that matter, I couldn't even tell if it was, well, human. Whoever was on the other side of the door, it wasn't Cam's mom. Cam backed away from the door. You're not my mom. Yes. Yes, I am. Open up. The door handle wriggled. I put a hand to my chest. My heart was thumping 1,000,000 miles a minute. By the sound of Cam's voice, so was his. He spoke loudly, trying to hide the tremble in his words. Go away. You better leave now. We're calling the cops. We stood there, still as statues. Silence. Cam hissed after a few minutes. I looked at him bug-eyed. You go check the window. I can't hear anything. I think she's gone. Go check. Cam gave me a shove. Don't be a baby, he added. I hid his hand away and gave him a scathing look, but still got down on my hands and knees, crawling toward the bay window. The wooden floor felt cold on my palms. As I neared the window, Cam flicked off the lights. Reaching up, I pulled aside a corner of the pale muslin curtain and peeked outside. At first, I didn't notice anything. But then, there at the corner of the driveway, a figure, barely illuminated by the yellow glow of the light above the garage. It stood so still that I almost mistook it for only a shadow. I squinted, but the harder I looked, the more its shape seemed to waver in the rain. I couldn't see a face, but I could just make out the mess of long, black hair. All of a sudden, it turned around and walked away. You see anyone? Asked Cam. He had crept up to the window. Someone at the end of your driveway. They walked down that way, though. Frickin' weirdos in this town, I swear. We should really call the cops, I said. I was honestly shaken. Cam protested immediately. No way. It was probably nothing, he said, trying to brush it off. The cops would come, ask a bunch of questions, call my mom. Can you imagine? She wouldn't let me leave the house the rest of the year. Besides, it was just a joke. Didn't you hear that voice? Think about it. No one talks like that. Yeah, that's true. But you were afraid too, I said. What, do you think it was a zombie? Or a phantom? Cam stretched out his arms and pretended to be a ghost. Ooh, let me in, child. I must suck on your brains. He laughed. Don't be dumb. Let's just finish the game. I just bought Boardwalk. I bet you don't want to play, 'cause you know you're gonna lose. Well, he was partly right. I really hated losing. Soon enough, we were back into Monopoly, and I'd nearly forgotten about the whole thing. Still, I kept peeking at the door, half expecting to hear the loud knocks at any time. But they never came again. Toward the end of the game, I was pretty much convinced that the person I saw was just another neighborhood prankster. As it turns out, I won. Cam was livid. The entire time we were putting the game back in the box, he couldn't stop saying how cheap and unfair it was. I just laughed. We were just about to fold up the board when I happened to glance at the front door. And then I dropped everything I was holding. I stumbled back onto the table. What is it? I heard Cam ask. He sounded far away, though. He sounded far away. A set of scrawny fingers had opened the mail slot in Cam's front door. They rested on the inside. Holding ajar the small brass cover, through the tiny rectangular slot, a face looked into the house. It was smiling. It was looking right at me. I tried to scream, but the sound got caught deep in my throat. I flailed a pointing finger toward the door. He ran over to the window and peeked outside. I crawled in the kitchen and hid behind the countertop. A moment later, Cam crouched next to me. Okay, that was really creepy, he said. But I didn't see anybody out there. I'm calling the police, Cam. Yeah, right. That's probably a good idea. You have to call, though. My phone made it in the laundry, remember? I pulled out my phone and put it on the speaker. It rang twice before the operator picked up. 911. What's your emergency? I talked as fast as I could. Hi, we think there's someone trying to break in the house. We're alone. Can you send someone quick, please? Who's in the home with you? It's just me and my friend Cam. It's his house, and we're both 13. His parents are out working. Can you please just hurry? All right. Are you at 1408 Berry Rock Road? I looked at Cam. Yep, that's it, he said. Okay, I'm going to give you a few directions. Please listen very carefully. Are the doors and windows locked? Yes, I said. Okay, unlock the front door. I hesitated. This seemed like an odd request. Cam gave me a quizzical look. What? I asked. Unlock the front door. Cam piped up. What? No way. I don't see any cop lights out there yet. We're not going to do that. Do it. Open the door. Who is this? We called 911. Who is this? It's me. Your mother. Open up now, sweetie. Open the door. I smashed my phone against the floor and threw it over the counter. I'm not ashamed to say I felt like crying. What was going on? I was sure I dialed 911. How was this possible? Cam rubbed his face in his hands. He was just as rattled. Okay. What do we do? He said to himself. When's your mom supposed to be back? I don't know. She said late. What is happening? I'm seriously freaking out right now. What about your dad's gun cabinet? I asked. It's locked. I don't know where the key is. He hides it somewhere. We could look for it in his room, but... Cam wrinkled his brow and looked around. Hey, do you hear that? Huh? I held my breath and listened. The wind blowing, creaking the beams of the house. A throbbing heavy rain. And something else. Slightly louder. A slow tapping. Sharp. Like a fingernail against glass. It came from the ceiling. I looked up. Above us, a woman crouched over the skylight, face against the glass. At least, I think it was a woman. Her black hair lay splayed out, writhing across the window. Her cheeks gaunt, eyes sunken far back into her skull. Her fingers tapped the window. She smiled. She licked the glass. She didn't look real. I thought I was hallucinating. But Cam saw her too. He screamed. The next thing I knew, we were running down Cam's hallway. We burst into his room, slamming and locking the door behind us. I was trying to calm my breath, but I could feel my asthma acting up, and I didn't have my inhaler. Cam began pacing back and forth. Holy shit, he said, over and over again. Oh my God. We barely had time to catch our breath before we heard the tapping again. Closer this time. On Cam's bedroom window. The blinds were closed, but somehow she knew we were in there. Tap, 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 tap. Lightning flashed outside. For a second, her grotesque silhouette spread across the window. Here! Cam pushed something into my hands. A bat. We need to get away from the windows, he said. He was holding a knife. The blade gleaming red in the light of his oozing lava lamp. Hurry! Cam ran to the hallway. I followed him in the bathroom, at the end of the hall. It didn't have any windows. He turned off the light and locked the door. We both crouched in the long tub, hiding behind the curtain. I don't think she can get inside. Unless we let her. Right? Cam asked. Otherwise, she would have already broken the window, right? I nodded numbly. I couldn't say anything. I was too scared, but I had hoped he was right. At least we couldn't hear the tapping anymore. For a long while we crouched there. I don't know exactly how long. It's hard to get a sense of time when you're terrified and all you have to count is your breath. It could have been minutes or hours, but at some point, we heard the front door creak open and swing shut. Slowly. Footsteps through the house. Cam and I tried to be quiet, tried to make our breathing slower. The footsteps came closer and closer until they stopped right outside the bathroom. The door jiggled. A moment later, the lock clicked. I held the baseball bat as tight as I could. The light flicked on. Cameron? Came a female voice. I got ready to swing. My muscles tensed. Cam raised his knife. A hand pulled back the shower curtain. It was Katie. We almost beat up Katie. Jesus! She shouted, taking a step back. Holy shit! Are you guys okay? What's going on? Katie, Cam said frantically. How'd you get in? Did you lock the door? Please tell me you locked the door. Calm down, I locked the door. I used the key your mom gave me. Sorry, she left a voicemail asking me to keep an eye on you tonight. I just got it and came over to check. What's the matter? Your neighbor said she heard you screaming. Oh my god, someone's been trying to break in. We called the cops, but... Cam began to say before pausing. Wait, our neighbor heard us screaming? Which neighbor? Your new neighbor. She was just outside the door when I pulled up. She came over to check on you as well. Wait, Katie, wait. Our new neighbor? We've had the same neighbor since I was 6. Oh, really? You can ask her yourself then. Katie opened the bathroom door completely and looked out in the hallway. She seemed confused. That's weird, she said. She was just right behind me.